Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Expert Advisor tutorials. And in this video, we'll be looking at the wish list for the self-optimizing EA. I am Vishnu Poonai, and the product owner and mentor is Dr. Masood Sahaji. Now, first and foremost, let's look into what we've done so far in this EA and what this wish list comprised of, or as in what we need to do. So first off, the main project or items of what I've done with this EA was mainly focused on optimization and learning how it works. Because in addition to it being a RSI and MFI trader, it was labeled as self-optimizing in the download page or the original author who designed it. So that created some challenges in terms of understanding exactly how it works in relation to the RSI and MFI indicators. So what you should be at this stage is be able to have like a fair understanding of how that works, and you should have went through the introduction and the maintenance videos along with looking at this Confluence page, which has all the details of this trader so far. So first, let's just show that these were some of the input variables I used in the testing of this EA, along with my optimization input variables here. And so in that being said, in an effort to not to start from scratch, what I have done is that if you've noticed that you can, in Forex, you can save or load different optimization sets. So I have saved these optimization sets based on the trade reports that I have generated in my Confluence page, and they can be found in the repository, the EA self-optimization, make sure on that branch here. And if you go to optimizations, here they are. So do feel free, or I do recommend that you first start with these optimizations and tinker with that based on your understanding before you have to start from scratch, and then, a lot of time is waste. So with that being said, let's get on to my outcomes and what I recommend as the wish list. So I did do first the test, the history test. As you can see, I used the period H1, July 1st to June 2016, 2018. This is my history test. And I did gain profit, gross profit, and net profit. There was some absolute drawdown and some maximal draw. And this did create this kind of trading, which in the end, it does produce profit. But I mean, this would be unsatisfactory in terms of just using this E on day-to-day basis, because as our mentor, Dr. Masood Sahaji was saying, is that it's better for that the graph has a smooth uptick or a slight upwards, rather than huge dips, because it will encourage users or traders to come out or pull out, in certain take loss periods. And this would trigger that. I would definitely, if I was a trader, and from my understanding of how the process works. So I do recommend a level better, better optimization towards getting a smoother uptick. So that would be, number one on the wish list is, the better optimizations. I ran out of time in working on that, but I do believe, from some personal tinkering on my own, that it is possible. And just another point, what makes this a little more complicated than usual is the self-optimizing feature, in that if you looked at the video on the code and my research on how this works, is that it does take a certain amount of double checking itself, in that it finds periods where the RSI or MFI triggers, the buy or sell, and it runs this period in the test multiple times in an effort to get a good outcome. But what that causes is, in the end, it causes a somewhat of an unbalance of this, because it looks at these trades one by one in the time, and when it pulls from the array, it causes a level of up and down that is very confusing, in terms of like the why it would do this, why it would do this, because it's the self-optimizing feature. So you kind of have to fight it, but not too much if you dive into the full optimization features. And for the forward tests, I did get a better result, as you can see here. And like I said, these optimizations are there. Um, in this case, this would be somewhat what we need to do, in that the graph, has a rise and it goes further up. It does have a cutoff period, the close and stop, but that's to be expected in the testing period. And like I said, these optimizations are available for you to tinker with, um, because these values that I do have saved and it's in the repository is what I found to affect this expert advisor the most. The remaining values, you can check it as well, but I found, based on many hours of testing, that it did not, cause much change. But those values that I do have saved in the repository is what mainly affected uh, this trader. The second level of optimization, or the wish list, sorry, that I would recommend, is adding the Bollinger Bands to this uh, trader. So what we can see here is that if we do go to some research here, Bollinger Bands, we do know that Bollinger Bands work in a similar period, a similar way to the RSI or MFI, in that it identifies, the crossover at which buy or sell is recommended. And in my opinion, looking at the code for this EA, is that the addition of Bollinger Bands can help in identifying, like the changes in volatility, and will help to narrow down or make this EA a more tighter experience, in that it trades on a more tighter sense. And I personally, from my understanding, and based on the Bollinger Bands and the RSI and MFI indicators, will help to close the gap in the level of uncertainty, as we saw in these this graph, these periods that I have here, since it will limit the trades to what we know as strong confirmation of changes in volatility. So I do recommend that this should be the second way to add into the wish list. I think together that those two features would be a very beneficial EA. Uh, Came upon this conclusion when working on the uh, Gollinger trader, where we did have to combine the RSI and Bollinger Bands, and it did have a significant effect on the levels of trading. So I do recommend that as the next step in the Bollinger Bands. Finally, in terms of wish lists, I do recommend a refactoring of the code. Since I did, as you can see here, this is the page for optimizing code. And like I said, you can review it. I have a video and the timestamps. I do recommend refactoring the code for a more easily understood level of understanding here, since it does, based on how it was written originally, I did add comments, and made some slight changes. However, I do recommend refactoring the code in a more step-by-step level of functioning, since in its current state, as you will understand if you take a look at this, even at the video or tinkering yourself, the flow of the program does jump around a significant amount. So I do recommend refactoring the code, either for your sake or for future professionals working on this EA, to have an easier time understanding than I did. So, yep, that's basically that for the wish list. I sound short, but it is a lot of work, especially the optimization and then the adding of the Bollinger Bands, which I do recommend, or I hope to do at some point in the future, since from experience with working with the Gordon EA, it does help in narrowing down better types of trades. So that would be it for the wish list for this EA. I wish you luck in continuing and adding to this expert advisor. If you do have any questions about this tutorial or the wish list, feel free to contact me here at this email. And if you do have any overall project inquiries, please contact Dr. Masood Sahaji at this email. Thank you.